Okay, Dane Rose here, and one of the things that we need to be mindful of when pursuing a quest of any kind, in this case to dramatically improve your well-being, is income. And so in this video, I'm going to explore a couple of the tools that in the last 5 years have dramatically improved my income. So the first thing, in the last video, I talked about taking control of your media. That's video number 2. And I mentioned Audible specifically. And I mentioned in that video that the 500 books that I read on Audible and the $5,000 I spent on those 500 books has led to a $200,000 return on investment in my business. So rather than give you a specific recommendation, I'm going to tell the story of that, relate it to a couple of Audible titles that really mattered, and you can do what you like with it. So number one I mentioned was the 4-hour work week. The pivot point for me in this was virtual assistants. Now I have 2 virtual assistants. I have someone that works 3 hours a day for me that I've never met in person. We meet on Skype, this and that and the other. The best employee I have ever hired in my entire life. And what he's done is he's taken 3 hours of the most repetitive, onerous, irritating things that I ever do off of my back. And he's replaced many higher paid professionals and done a better job. So I pay him $18 an hour. That's twice what I started because he's so good and he keeps learning. So I keep paying him more. And he's my virtual assistant. And he is very happy. I helped him quit a 40-hour job where he was making $9 an hour and working 10-hour days. He's now making more, working 3 hours a day, and has free time, spends time with his family, so he loves it. So anyway, so 4-hour work week led to the knowledge of personal assistants. This is a whole new world for me. So I ended up hiring a crappy personal assistant who I didn't like at all. But I thought, you know this whole world, so find me a good personal assistant. So she found me my personal assistant, Devang. And as I say, he is the best employee I have ever hired in my entire life. And I've hired probably 200, 300 employees in the course of running my business. Fabulous, absolutely fabulous and game-changing. So now that I've got someone doing 3 hours a day of the stuff that I don't have the patience for, it's not my temperament to do repetitive things. I like doing new things. And so I delegate stuff. He's going to make these videos work. I don't like adding and editing videos. He loves it. So this is book number 1. Now, book number 2 in this equation, I've now had my virtual assistant. He's pretty well trained after a couple of years. Book number 2 comes along, The One Thing, also on Audible. It's not that complicated. You pick the one thing. It's an exaggeration of the 80-20 principle we talked about in video number 1. You pick the one thing that really could change your life. You analyze your entire life and you say, what action, what success, if I could do this, would completely change my life? What is it? And I decided, since I was very interested in traveling, and one of the hang-ups I was having was that I wasn't getting a contract signed like 3 months ahead of time. People were calling me at like the last minute. And that meant that when I'd go traveling, when I'd come back, it would take about 3 weeks of my time to meet with clients, do the design before I could begin work. So this was effectively cutting into how much vacation time I could take. And so the one thing that could really change that for me was to double the amount of incoming clients. And so that was the objective, double the amount of incoming clients. The thing that seemed like the most elegant, meaning the least amount of energy spent for the most result in that goal, was a complete transformation of my website. So the one thing, as Stephen Covey used to say, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So we made this the one thing, and we basically just spent a month. We spent a month on the one thing, in this case, building the best website possible. So this was a fun challenge. So Devang gathered me the top 100 landscape sites in the country. Landscapers who'd won the most awards, just anywhere in the country, award-winning top landscape sites. He sent me 100 of them. I just went through. Any time I found one I really liked, I left the browser open, opened another browser, and just kept going through. And I had 5 finalists. Then I had my favorite. And Devang built me that site for $1,500. A replica with 25% improvements that I wanted to tweak on it. And so this was our one thing exercise. And that site quadrupled the amount of incoming business. So we doubled the goal of doubling. And so I am now turning away 50% of the contracting work that comes into that site. Partly because I'm spending so much time on vacation, but I've also largely solved that gap to where I can come back from 2 or 3 months of vacation and hit the ground running. And so that's the second book, The One Thing. There were also 3 books in there on SEO. And I read the books on SEO. I had Devang read the books on SEO. And we triangulated our ideas. So I said, make a list of all your strategies. I'll make a list of mine. We discussed it. We came up with a strategy for SEO. And rather than paying Google, rather than paying Bing, rather than paying Yahoo, we worked on our own SEO. And Devang would give me a weekly report on 70 keywords that took me less than a minute to look at. Now this is heavens above the 10 to 20 minutes of gibberish that most SEO companies give a business owner. This was simple. 70 keywords. Where did we rank when we began, the day we did our first chart? And then where do we rank today in Google, Bing, and Yahoo? What is our ranking? And of course, how many of those? It's about 20 of those 70 are in the top 10 for all 3. And we're number 1 in a number of search engines in more than 8 keywords. Number 1 on Google, Bing, and Yahoo. So this makes us basically one of the best SEO'd contracting firms in the country. And that is part of it. It's not just having a good site. It's having a good site with enough traffic for people to appreciate the good site. So that is the, building on what I talked about last week, freeing up time, stop watching the news, stop spending time with, with things that are not delivering immediate value to your life and people you care about. Put that energy towards something new. It's important to generate enough income, because like this project, what I'm doing right here is the most exciting thing in my life right now. And it is costing me money. I'm up 2 a.m. in Thailand making the thing. I'll be paying Devang to stick it up. It's costing money. But like many of the most interesting things in life, they require a little money. It's not a lot. It's a little money. And when I'm in survival mode, as I was for the first 20 years of my life, like it's always something, I would just increase my spending to keep up with my ever-increasing income. When I'm in survival mode, the idea of doing something fun, like giving away knowledge in the hope of helping some people feel cared about and that it's useful information, is a tightening feeling. But when you can create an abundance of income, it's a fun feeling. Bill and Melinda Gates said it best: giving away their money is the most enjoyable thing they ever did. It's more fun to do passion-filled projects and stuff, but it takes some money. So I'm doing this as video number 3 because for those of us that own businesses, SEO does matter. Website design does matter. A virtual assistant can make a big difference. And I read another book, and because Devang was such an amazing success for me, and I'm not going to pretend that it's easy to find a Devang. I trained him for 3 years, and I feel very fortunate to have him. I've never met anyone that's quite so responsive, and just on top of everything. But it's a godsend. So I then, and I actually read another virtual assistant training book, and combined that with my own ideas, again, reading that on Audible. But I've actually got a literal assistant who comes 1 hour a day to my house and runs the entire house. So no more taking out the compost for me, no more vacuuming, no more watering the plants, no more feeding the fish, no more getting the mail, no more doing the dishes. And what this does is it gives me another hour of the day to do stuff that's more interesting. Again, I started doing these pro bono things. I've started a new nonprofit. If you have to run a business and run around with your head cut off, and particularly if you don't have enough money, the idea of doing pro bono stuff is a nightmare. But when your business is running well and good income is coming in, there's nothing more fun than seeing how to help this or that, And so I basically automated my house. My assistant has a list of stuff to do every day, every week, and every month. And all she has to do is refer the list. She doesn't have to talk to me. And it's a great freedom. It's a great freedom. It's given me another 365 hours of the year to do creative things. And if you find the right person, like Devang loves doing repetitive work. My assistant loves having the spotless house and doing all that. And I love arriving home from work and saying, what do I want to create that's new? As opposed to, oh my gosh, I forgot the compost. I went, oh, and living in that nightmare of backlog. So things you can take from this. 1, read the book, The One Thing. 2, read the book, The 4-Hour Workweek. 3, consider a virtual assistant. 4, consider a real-life assistant and delegating your whole house. 5, work on SEO. 6, create a great website. And that's it for now.